Let's play hooky today.
Right.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I love it. I love it. These are fun gatherings, right? There's no pressure or anything.
Let's play hooky today.
Hooky.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, repeat.
Right.
Yeah.
Here we go. Sorry, that was a direct feedback from my yeah. It came back. Sometimes when it launches, it doesn't have the mute button, and sometimes it does. So this time it didn't. But here we are. So great to be with all of you here. I can't believe it's the end of January. Can't believe it. It's January 25th. Unbelievable. And even the weather doesn't speak it. You can see here in Texas, we've got, I got short sleeves on. It's not really hot, but it's still really not really cold. So really great to be with our students here today. We've got Amber, always fantastic to see you, Amber, with something changing in the background. I see some kind of falls and some kind of cliff there. You have to tell us a little bit about that one. Now or maybe later.
The waterfall where it's supposed to be, but I don't know. It's my background's acting up today, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, it is. It's like some kind of big waterfall with
an explosion.
Really cool. Eddie's here. Eddie Smalls, great to have you. Patricia's here, fantastic. Anne's here. Really happy to have you. Both our Scotts are here. We have a triple Scott. I wonder if he'll come online today, because that's what I was like. We had a new Scott and then our two Scotts, and here you both are. Susan's here. Great to see you. Susan Johnston, and Susan Willett. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Rima, great to see you. Catherine's here, and Jay and Joe and Karen. Two Karens. Yes, we're doubling up. That's the fun part. I love it. Emily, Patricia, here we are. Maybe we should talk about doubles today. I don't know. No, Irene, Angel, and Gloria's here, and Jamie, and Joseph, and Nadea. Iris is here. Alec is here. Good to see you, Alec. Camera off today. That's fine. Maybe we'll see you as the conversation continues. Gail's here, and we got Sabina, the lovely Sabina's here. Allison, Christine, Evelyn. And many more students are coming online as we speak. Deborah's here, and Rebecca and Evelyn. And so, for me, what's been coming up these past couple of days, here comes Roxanna. Here's Roxanna. Roxanna, good to see you. What's coming up for me in the past couple of days has been I've been noticing, you can tell me if you feel the same, that communication is a little challenged lately. And so, kind of typical conversations that you might have, or just, easygoing kind of things that it's not coming across exactly as you meant it to be, or as you meant to say it. And that's interesting. And it is kind of relevant to right now, but I always feel like when that one comes up, I like to have a conversation, because I think that when we can uncover, the things that work for us, and then the things that work against us, I think that communication is such a huge key to life. Right, even in this business. So, you're going to establish your customer base, and, you're going to have to do a lot of communicating. You're going to have to be able to communicate who you are as a business owner, what you're about, right? Even when you're writing, even on Etsy or whatever, and you're telling a little bit about yourself and who you are. I mean, there are some people that can communicate, somebody's going to read your passage and they'll understand it, and others might not understand it. And that's something that we have to be aware of. And each time we review that, and we go back and we make it a little bit clearer and a little bit clearer. And when we learn to really speak to the most basic, I once heard, I think it was Albert Einstein, but I might be misspeaking, but I think he said that, if you really understand something, if you fully understand it, you should be able to explain quantum physics to a 5-year-old. Like, you should be able to really break it down in a way that everyone can understand you. And so it's the same thing here. Like, do you understand, we're just talking about the bio right now, right? Do you understand truly what you're representing, what you're creating? What do what kind of business are you building? Are you able to convey that in words, written words, so that somebody will read it and understand? So that's just kind of one way where communication comes across for us in the business. Then there's that whole interaction with customers. So maybe some of you have already had some of these, and you just kind of write a standard email where you're saying yes to the customer, whatever they want and all that, but then they come back to you and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, 1 second, how was that read different than what I intended? I was actually complying. I'm giving you what you wanted. Why are you not hearing that I'm, you know what I mean? And so that the choice of words and how we write them out. And, especially today with texts and emails, it's such a, let's use the word challenging form of communication, because and I also heard someone really fascinated talking about this, especially in society today, where a lot of times we'll have our mouth and our nose kind of covered up when we're speaking to young children or to people, right? So a huge part of learning to communicate, especially in young children, is facial expressions and tone of voice and hands, right? You guys always get on me with the hands, right? That's a huge part of communicating what it is that you're trying to say, right? Because let's say if I'm just kind of still like this and I'm going to send out a message, well, we're going to talk about whatever it is I'm talking about. And, you hear my voice and it's sending you a message of stress, of something's, I'm not comfortable, or, something's going on. And if I'm just like, hi, and speaking this way. So we have all of these extra ways of deciding what is this message, or it's not deciding, it's like, really, determining what message is being conveyed to us. But in text, in the written word, we don't really have that luxury. So we have to make sure that the way that we're communicating ourselves and our message and what it is that we want to tell our customers, they said, I didn't get this mug, or the mug arrived in a specific situation, please replace it. And you're like, yes, of course, I'll replace it. And they come back and they're like, what? Why couldn't you could be a little bit nicer about it or whatever? And you're like, what's not nice? I'm sending you a new mug. But, it's the lengthy, it's taking time to really express yourself and to make sure that the person on the other end that is receiving your message understands it the way that you intended. We can take that, let's say, a little bit out of our business, right? And, sometimes you're being very kind and nice and and speaking to someone and giving them a message. But in the inside, you're thinking, oh, I really don't, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And your energy, that message from the inside is coming out, and they sense it. And they're like, what exactly is she trying to say? What exactly does she mean? So what, you don't want to help me? And they're like, one second, I just said I'm going to help you. Yes, but it doesn't sound like it. So you see how, aligning what you're thinking inside and how you're presenting your message, and how then able to communicate it, the choice of words, the choice of tone, the choice of inflection. That's a big one. That's Israelis. If you ever heard Israelis speak very harsh. It always kind of sounds like, if you don't understand what they're saying, it sounds kind of like they're arguing. And that's always funny, right? Especially also the dialect. There's a dialect in it that has like these sharp edged sounds, like sharp, everything's sharp. Whereas, if you can relate it to like Spanish is very soft and rounded. Everything is rounded on the edges. And so it's interesting because, they're putting in, I'm getting all wrapped up here, and there's yes, some chats. Okay, I'll read them in just a second. Anyway, so, so even listening on a side, where's I going with the Israeli accent? Anyway, so, just the idea that you can have an intention to present a message in a way, and it can be heard or received in a completely different way. It wasn't your intention. So let's talk about different ways to communicate, right? So the first thing we have to do is understand what is our own way of communication. And are you aware of it? It brings us back to that kind of mindfulness where we have to just kind of listen for ourselves. Okay, listen for us. How are we saying the things? We might speak with a lot of passion, right? I'm guilty of that one too. Speak with a lot of passion and a lot of energy. And somebody else on the other side is like, okay, what's going on? What is she exactly trying to say? And, you were talking about the mask here. Now I caught the comment there. Yeah, it's a big one because you can't see facial expressions. Even if you're going to like the grocery store and you're saying hello, right, to the person who's running your groceries, and you don't know, are they smiling? Are they sad? Are they happy there? Are they done with it? Do they just want to go home? Like what? You don't know. And so, yeah, it's a big thing now. Anyways, back into, ways of communicating. So step one is really trying to figure out how we are communicating, how we are expressing ourselves, how we're able to, what is the actual, like, are we able to speak clearly? Right? A lot of people also can speak with a small voice and a closed mouth. Can people actually understand what you're about to say, right? So opening up our mouth, speaking with enough air, that's a big one, right? Filling our lungs with air and speaking. So this is us becoming aware of how we communicate. And that's kind of vocally, we went into vocally. I hear some background noise. I'm gonna go ahead and mute y'all, but of course, you know that you're always welcome to unmute. And so that's vocally. And now with a text. So what I always encourage, or with an email, go back and read it. Go back and read it. Go back and read it 3 times. Do it. Why not? Proof your emails. It's not like, don't write an email, especially not to a customer, really hot-headed and blah, 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 and send without going back and reading it. Okay. So, you want to proof your emails. And then even, if it's something really important, let somebody else read it and give you their opinion. Does it sound right? Does your message, what kind of message, when you ask that question, what kind of message did you receive while reading this email? What did it mean to you? Because you might think, oh, this is so clear. This is, I wrote it all out. It's crystal clear. But somebody who doesn't know reads it and like, where did you want me to send what and how is it going to get to you? And they don't understand anything. So having someone else look at it after you write it out is really, really great. Another thing is have compassion. I remember on one of these calls, somebody had shared they worked at a call center for like customer service. And oftentimes people would just call in just to vent, like just to dish out all the things that they want to say. And it's like, you have to hold space for this person on the call because it's your job. And you're just kind of hanging there. So how do you do that when you're receiving all of this energy from someone who's so mad, things didn't go their way, whatever it is broken, not working, they can't figure it out, I don't know what. And so it's finding that space of compassion, really. Compassion for the first person in front of you. Oftentimes when you'll see people that are angry or aggravated or something's going on. Something's going on in their life and they're going through a lot. There's that famous meme that goes, who's going through a lot right now? Literally everyone, right? Everyone has their dish of things that they are dealing with right now. And that's great because that's life. And I say great on purpose because, what would we be? I mean, imagine, it's kind of like when the astronauts go out into space and they have no resistance, no gravity, their muscles atrophy, right? They lose all of their strength in their muscles because there's no resistance. So imagine that in life, there's no resistance, nothing ever pushes up against you. Everything just goes so easy. It's not as we wouldn't be who we are today without all of that. So it is important. So that kind of finding that space of compassion for someone else and what they're going through, I think is critical for communication. And then that really leads into something really important that we talked a lot about in different trainings is listening for someone versus listening against someone. So that's a huge skill in communication. So oftentimes there are a couple ways to communicate. There are a couple ways where, we're just kind of holding our breath, waiting for them to finish saying what they want to say. And then we can give it, we can hand it, we can say all the things we want to say. That's not listening for, okay? That's like, we're waiting for our turn. Listening for is you're in this quiet space and you're actually able to hear what they want to say to you. And especially if this is a loved one, right? This can happen a lot in close relationships where, first of all, we feel like we know the person, so we know what they're about to say, and we know where they're coming from, and we have all this baggage and history that we're dragging with us to this conversation because we're in it to win it, right? And so, just being able to listen for someone versus listen against them is a huge thing. We used to go in in these circles and they would ask, well, are you listening for at this moment? Are you listening for? Because you have to check yourself. What is going on right now? That leads us back to that first step of understanding how we communicate. And so then I think it comes into this space of figuring out when is the right time for specific things, right? When is the right time to come up and I see that now, Patricia. When is the right time to come up and say something, right? You have this great intention. you have such a good intention. You know, this person could use a help with, I don't know, let me think about a good example. You know, they didn't park right. Okay, they're blocking 2 parking spaces, and you have this good intention. You want to come up and say, and this person is struggling, you know, lifting all these bags and maybe 3 children, and all these things are happening. And you're like out to point out that, you know, they didn't park right. And that, you know, that's kind of not exactly the moment that you want to go up and offer your advice. Or, you know, that's not a great example. Let's say you have something that can improve their health. And you have something so important because you know that it transformed your health. And you really want to offer that to them. You really want to tell them all the magical things that improved for you, but you see that they're struggling and they're in a space where they're not able to hear and they're not able to listen. So just kind of in that space of really understanding, that's called mindful listening. It's called, you know, you listen to where they are in space, and you can decide to share your opinions later. You don't have to dish it all out at the moment that you want. You know, even Stephen Covey, right? He talks about seeking first to understand and then to be understood. So first to understand the party in front of you, first to understand who you're speaking to, who you're communicating, you know, with, and then seek to be understood by them. So it's really important that you put yourself first in that space of compassion. Again, it really brings us back to that space of compassion, that space of understanding how we communicate and how we want to express our message into the world. And so I'll just wrap up and I'll say, you know, we often reference to a flower bed or to a garden that we're growing. And when we want to grow a certain garden, or, you know, when we want to see the flowers and the fruit of our labors, especially in our business, we need a lot of love and communication. We need a lot of love and communication to grow the fruits and you know, what it is that we're trying to create. Money, right? This stream of income. It's going to take that dedication and that mindfulness and that accountability, and especially with a lot of compassion for what's going on in the world at large. Because, you know, I just mentioned for a minute there, you know, the whole idea with the mask and all that, and everybody was relating to it. Yes. So we have to have that space of compassion for where everyone is, you know. And a lot of people have this illusion, or they're going through a profound sense of loneliness, of separation, especially now, right? Because some people can't meet up, and some countries are still in lockdown, all these things that are going on, right? So, you know, in order to we have to see that. And then when we want to communicate our idea, when we want to bring this forth to whoever we're talking to be able to do that background check, to be able to be mindful and see what really is going on in their life, not just from my perspective, not just what I'm seeing, but for them as well. And so I want to hear from you now, how you relate to this. You know, if I saw a lot of comments going in, so when I see a lot of comments going in, there definitely I've touched some people here. So I already have a hand up for Patricia. This is fantastic. I want to say, Patricia, 1 second. You know, this is a safe space to communicate. So just so you know, if you're new to the Low-Hanging System, this is where we come and we connect to each other on a deeper level. We help each other out. There's never any judgment or any, there are never any wrong answers. Let's put it that way. There's no wrong and right. Everybody's coming from where they are in their lifetime and sharing that wisdom with all of us. And sometimes, and we saw that last call with that third Scott, which Patricia said he's here today. So that's great. Just sharing one little thing just opened up for so many people. And it was fantastic. So feel free to share, even if it's just a little snippet that comes into your head. You don't know how that can shape someone's world. Patricia.
Hello. This is very close to my heart, this class today. I grew up, I didn't think I was for a long time, and then I realized I grew up very sheltered. I was in a small town in Mississippi. I've never gone anywhere in my life other than on vacation, or doing anything. Never did anything on my own because I had my dad protecting me, and making sure I didn't do things and get in trouble. And then I went in the Army, and I found out that most people don't speak like I do. And a lot of them didn't understand me. I mean, like Southerners, we can say an entire 4-page dissertation in one paragraph. You know what I mean? Like, gee, how you doing? Fine. You fine? Gee, yeah, no. Gee, yeah. Want to? Yeah, let's go. All right. I mean, you just talk to them. How's your mom and them doing? You know, find out about their family, find out if they want to go eat, find out how they're doing. You know, let's go. And, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing. And people look at you like, what did you say? You know? And so I had to learn how to communicate where everyone understood me. And I also learned that I didn't understand them a lot, you know, and we're all speaking English, so to speak. I mean, a lot of people don't think I am because I speak Southern, you know, and so they say, no, you don't speak English, you speak Southern. What, isn't that English? You know, I mean, everybody has their own dialect. So I learned how to say, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Or I don't understand your meaning behind this. Can you please clarify? And if you ask that, people usually will look at you kind of funny, and then you might have to explain, you know, like your dialect is a little bit different than mine or whatever. But most people are happy to explain themselves. They would rather do that than think that they have gotten through to everyone and find out later that they haven't, you know. And like I went to my brother lives in Minnesota. We both grew up in Mississippi. If it's below 70 degrees, I'm freezing. I'm like a rattlesnake. I get up on top of a hot rock and I'm happy just laying there all day long. If it goes above 50, my brother's burning up. So he lives in Minnesota. I live in Texas. Well, I went to see him, and we went to he lives in a very small town, Hastings, really small. And they have 2 restaurants, McDonald's and Applebee's, and that's it. Nothing else in town. So we went to the fancy restaurant, Applebee's. And so I asked the lady, she said, ask me what I wanted to drink. And I said, sweet tea, please. And she said, well, we have sugar packets. And I said, my brother said, she has no clue what you're talking about. Just nod your head and say, okay. Okay. I said, what do you mean? I thought everybody had sweet tea. And she said, I don't understand what you mean by sweet tea. And I said, well, tea with sugar is the tea you bring me and put the sugar packets on it. Sweet tea is a tea that you make. You have hot tea, you pour it in a pitcher with sugar already in it, you stir it up and it makes sweet tea. And she said, oh. So the next time we went back, she said, I tried that. It was great. So their Applebee's in Hastings now makes sweet tea. So, I mean, yeah, it's really funny. I mean, so you talk to these people and you explain to them. A lot of them have to ask me more than I have to ask them, but it's so fun to find different dialects. I mean, all over just the United States, everywhere you go, you're Texas. Texas has different things. Like I asked directions in Texas, and one guy said, ma'am, if you don't know where you're going, you don't need to be there. All right. And that's a true old Texas thought. If you don't know where you're going, you don't need to go. So I'm like, okay. So I learned not to ask directions. And if you ask directions in Alabama, they'll say, you need to go down where John's old barn was and make a right there, and then go by his bull and then take a left at the bull. You know, okay. So you have to learn. If you don't know where the old barn was, you can't go. You know, I mean, so everybody's, it's so much fun to talk to people and to learn from where they come, to their dialects, their thoughts, how they say one thing versus how you say something. So I guess I'm kind of babbling now, but it goes along with what you said on your writing, Karen. That even goes across in writing. So if you're writing letters to someone or a thing about the cups or whatever you're doing, read it twice, put it down for a little bit, and then go back to ensure that everything you said was not something that just your town would understand, but that everybody reading it might understand. And I learned that in public relations. That's what my degree is in. And we had different writing classes that the instructor would give us something and we'd have to tell what it meant. And everybody, the way he wrote it, everybody had a different thought process. And he, there's like 6 different ways of understanding what this letter said. So what Karen said about read it, put it down a little bit, and then go back, or have somebody else. If you're not sure, if you're having a customer it's really angry, write something and have somebody else check it over and see what they ask them. What do you think about this? How do you read this? That's what I learned. And it makes life a lot easier. And I don't get in so much trouble when I do that. So anyway, thank you.
I love it, Patricia. And you brought it, home for me, because I was like going Israel, Spanish, all these things out there, but really here English in the United States. I know we're all from all over the world, but all of us here speak English. And so just to understand how the dialect and just, where we're from and what shapes how we speak can be misinterpreted. That was fabulous that you.
And if you're from Mexico, or you're from Germany, or if you're from Brazil, or wherever, your speaking of English may be American English. It may be the Queen's English. And that's even different. When I lived in Germany, we would get on trains and everybody would bring food or wine or whatever. So when you're on this train going a long way, people start pulling out food and wine and drinks out of their backpack, and you all share. And that's how you meet people in Europe. And some people would speak the Queen's English, and I didn't understand what they were saying at all. And then Australia has their own English that's in their dialects. They have a whole lot of different dialects. They can speak an entire paragraph of English, and I have no clue what they're saying. So it's just language is very fun for me. It's a fun, yeah.
I love it. Okay. I love it. I love the story about
About the what?
I love the story about the sweet tea. I mean, something so basic and so simple, and to see that. And also you share about how when, just understanding that everyone gets the same text and everyone understands it's different. How many people, 20, 30 people in a classroom? You see it with children as well. You give instructions, right? Did you ever try to give instructions to kids, let's say cleaning a kitchen, and you'll walk away and come back and see what was created from that instruction? How clear do you have to be in order to get the task that you want done? Wipe the counter so that there are no specks on it. Whatever it is, the instructions become so crystal clear that there can be no miscommunication. So taking that into our business is so important. Thank you, Patricia. Eddie.
Well, hello, everybody. And I'm giggling about Patricia because she said, Mama Nim.
Mama Nim. That's a good one.
Now, see, I'm African American Southern, so I took that as a Southern idiom. I mean, among Black people, but she's Caucasian in saying that. Of course, she did tell me that she attended a Black church, but Mama Nim is Mama and them.
Right.
And that's a Southern way of saying it, but everybody's got this communication. I was so embarrassed about my speech in the language I heard among my people because everybody was laughing about it. I went to college and studied all forms of communication. And I mean it. I'm mass communication, journalism, cub reporting, magazine writing. I took Shakespeare. We put Hamlet on trial. We did a lot of things. I was involved with 4 movies where you had to write scripts, do the music, and I even acted in the movies. I mean, I did whatever it took, and I studied illustration art because expression. So I wanted to know how to communicate. And God sent me to the young people. You talking about, you really have to learn to communicate to a child. Because like Karen said, she's right. What you think is clean. See, my daddy said, when you do dishes means wash the dishes, clean the counter off. That means dishes is also the refrigerator, the stove, the table, and the floor. All that is the dishes. I say, well, those not dishes. We don't eat off that. He said, you're going to make it clean enough to somebody can. That includes the floor. So I promise you, at Walmart, they love how I clean that daggone back room, because my daddy taught me communication is it. I mean, it's you know, if you read the story of Helen Keller, it should make you cry and get you inspired. I mean, because this lady does outdistance everybody when it comes to tenacity and learning. Right. And that story I read as a child, and I saw the movie and all this, but it helped me stop feeling sorry for myself. You know, I'm a person, I'm hypersensitive. You know, I get embarrassed easy, so I didn't want to talk because people would laugh at the way I talked. Well, I learned that when you get out there and communicate what you have with people, I just started realizing, well, everybody talks funny. I mean, I don't want to get too ethnic, but I mean, you can say something to a Puerto Rican or Mexican that'll get you down there fight. I ain't that. I ain't no Puerto Rican. I ain't no Dominican. And you know, I just thought, I said, well, y'all all sound the same to me. What you doing? They ready to fight. I thought, I apologize, sir. So, but I made it a point to go meet people. You know, I listen to some white folks that talk, I say, they talk just like me. Countries they can possibly be. Go down there by the mule down there and turn left and get on Highway 1, go all the way down the end down there. You see so-and-so, his truck still sitting there when it burned 4 years ago. That's where you go right and you go down the hill and you get a gravel road. And then that big tree that's there, it's still there. That's where you go. You stand right there and wave your hand and you see Mr. So-and-so, he got the big gray hat on his head like this. He's always in the fields talking to his cows that got bells on the right and neck. That's how they talk. And I say, good Lord, no wonder you write movies. That's fantastic to put that on screen. So when you think about business, marketing is, who are you talking to? Who are you selling to? When you're making your mugs, you doing your cups, I'm bringing this around full circle. When you're doing whatever you're doing in your business, who's your market? When you get clarity there, you know the language. Then you want to know their language. How do they speak? How do they talk to each other? What is sacred to them? What don't they like? What do they like? And when you put that down in language, you will attract them and you won't have to work so hard with marketing, because they will just beat the doors down trying to find out who is that talking to them. In 1966, Marvel Comics Group put a black character on the front of their comic book. And that's when I switched from DC, 10 years old. I switched from DC to Marvel because they had the Black Panther on the front of a comic. Nobody had a black person in comics in 1966. You couldn't even hardly see him on TV. I say, somebody wants to talk to me. Ah! And I went and found 13 cents to find that comic book and I could not find it because it sold out. To this very day, I've never seen an original copy of that comic book. It's that important, and there's a reason why it made $6 billion in Hollywood. Who are you communicating to? What are you trying to say to them? And what do you want them to know about you? You can answer those questions, your business will explode because the people will kick the door down trying to find you. Thank you very much for accommodating. Let me speak, and Mama knows, and Dad and them happy about it too. So y'all have a good day.
I love it, Eddie. I love it. That was so good. And Black Panther is one of my favorite movies ever. They did such a good job with that one. Really, really good. All right, we've got lots of hands, so I'm moving right along. Scott B.
Hello, everyone. Like here. There's so much in what you were saying, so much. First thing, I think you've got to realize that you're going to resonate with some people. It is the best possible methodology of communication. You'll resonate with some and you will never resonate with others. That's a given. And I think if you're concerned about, there's something I saw just recently where this guy says, if you want to succeed in life, stop worrying about what other people think, which I think can extend to this in the sense that if you worried about your communication, that will hamper you, that will stifle you, and you won't communicate properly because you're so worried about how you're going to come across. And that, I think that's a significant point. And also, you talked about call centers. That highlights another very interesting issue because I remember I did a stint once in a call center, and one thing that came across very clearly, the staff burnout rate is huge. Like 95, 98% of the staff get turned over. They just go through them like a factory. It's terrible. And they're very dispirited and very emotionally traumatized by the experience, because the intention that they communicate, the whole context of their communication is basically, I want to use you for money. That's how it's perceived. And maybe in reality, that's what it is, because they don't understand. But the intentionality behind the communication and the context of the communication makes a huge, huge difference. And what I've come across just recently, a very important point, this is by a innovation professor, he calls himself. He said that the people who succeed, they're not the ones who set money as the goal. They never succeed. It's the ones who attach a meaning and purpose, a feeling, a very powerful emotion to what they're going to do with that money. They're the ones who actually make it and succeed. And it's very interesting that intentionality behind your communication really does shape and resonate through the communication. You can't help it. If you're there just to make money and rip people off, they're going to feel it. They're going to know it. Absolutely. And they will shy back. But if you, as Eddie mentioned, if you speak their language, if you show you can basically walk in their shoes, if you show the compassion and the concern beyond the goal of making money, then that you will resonate, and you will have a much greater chance of connecting. And honestly, if our intention is just to make money from people, then I think we're missing the point also, because it's not that. And if it is that, then we won't succeed. But if our intention is to do something amazing to help other people with that money, the money, the goal always has to be something that resonates from your heart. Money will never resonate from anyone's heart. But what you can do with that, the difference you can make in the lives of people around you, that will. And that's what we've got to focus on. And that will communicate to the customers. If you're only in it for the money, that will communicate as well. And you see it in some of the mugs and so forth, and some of the designs. You can see that there's no heart in them. And the humor or whatever it happens to be, it doesn't resonate at a deep level. It's just, see if you like this, and if you like to buy. If you don't, I don't care. And then that intentionality does come through. In the same way with children, when you cover their faces, so much of the communication doesn't come through, and and a lot of people now are openly saying the kids have been psychologically damaged, and that damage will come through for years to come. And basically a generation of kids has been permanently scarred psychologically. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the communication of the intentionality behind the words is 10 times more important than the words themselves, 10 times more. And you can't help it. It just comes through. Mm-hmm. I could say more, but that's enough.
Exactly. No, wonderful, Scott. And I'm not going to respond in kind. I love everything you say. I'm just going to move on to Karen here so we can have everyone that has a chance to speak up. Karen Thompson, great to see you.
Yeah, good morning. So a few things coming up for me listening to all of this, and what Scott was saying about the customers, that my experience this week has been about my colleagues. So I work in a very busy environment, in a childcare environment, and very fast paced. And so when you're speaking with staff, your colleagues, and so we could think about how we're responding on LHS, on the Facebook. How are we, what context? People can't see the context, it's the words. So how are we saying that? Remembering to say, please and thank you, please, can someone help me on this? Thank you, I appreciate the feedback. Just those little words really make a difference. So at work, I was very busy and I just said to someone, don't forget to do that. And then I walked away. And then later, so I'm very tuned into feelings. And so later I just had to go back and I said, my apologies, I didn't mean. The context of what I said was not to give an order. It was just a reminder. I didn't know whether you had done that yet. So my apologies if it was taken the wrong way. And I think that's important, to be humble, to be okay, to go back and say, look, I hope it didn't come across that way because that was not my intention. So quite often, a lot of the times, what our intention is not the perception of others. They can take it differently, and we have to be aware of that and be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable to experience that. So that's my busy talk. But then also, it's not just the words. So my partner is a great one for it because I will be talking, and we are both from different employment backgrounds. So he's a farmer and I'm an IT guru type thing. And I say, "You're not listening to me." And he said, "Yes, I am." And he would repeat all of the words that I had said. And I said, "Yes." I said, "You hear my words, but are you listening? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Do you understand?" So it's quite funny how people's ideas of, "Yes, I'm listening to you," what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are beautiful examples.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Really, really great. Thank you for speaking up. Everything, really resonated and on the dot. I'm going to move on to Scott here, and then we have Carlos. Great to hear you, Scott. We were waiting for you.
Okay. Well, I'm still taking that challenge and stepping out and getting out of my comfort zone. So, but you had talked about there's no right or wrong, and then I heard about perception. And for me, I used to be that personality where I was always right and I was never wrong. And I had learned a long time ago that it's not about right and wrong, but sometimes it's about complete or incomplete. So there may be some missing pieces that we may not understand. And so therefore we come to false conclusions because we don't have the complete story. And so I remember a story, and some of you may have heard this before or not, but I remember a story of a lady who walks into a coffee shop. And so she goes in the coffee shop every morning, and she sits down, drinks her coffee, and she always brings a little bag of cookies with her in her purse. And so she'll drink her coffee, she'll put her newspaper down or her magazine, and then her cookies. And so every morning she would do this. This was her routine. So she would enjoy her coffee, she would enjoy her cookies, and she would read her magazine. Well, one morning she comes in, she sits down, and she gets her coffee. She's getting ready for her little morning routine. And so she starts reading her magazine. And then a gentleman comes in and sits at the same table right across from her. And he just smiles at her, and she kind of looks at him like, "Okay." And she kind of continues to read her magazine. And so, she's reading her magazine. She takes a cookie to eat. She drinks her coffee. And then the gentleman, he also takes a cookie and starts eating it. Well, now she's kind of looking at him like, "Wait a minute, this is okay." So she's just kind of, okay, whatever. So she continues on. And then she noticed he took another cookie and he ate it and said, "Wait a minute, he's eating all my cookies. I don't even know this guy." And so there was one cookie left. And so he takes the last cookie, breaks it in half, and gives it to her, the half to her. And he just kind of smiles and says, "Has a good day." So he finally gets up and leaves. And she's just fuming at this point. It's like the audacity of that guy, eating my cookies and take the last one to give me, break it to give it me in half. And so she's already kind of flustered. So she finally decides, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and leave for the day. So she picks up her purse, opens up her purse, and realizes her bag of cookies are still in her purse. So all along, she had been eating the man's cookies and not her cookies.
Wow.
So anyway, I don't remember exactly how the story goes, but I may have butchered it. I don't know, but the idea is we tend to tell ourselves stories based on false conclusions, based on the perception, and then I can only imagine how she would feel when she finally found out, oh, those weren't my cookies after all. And so what he was doing, he was taking the last cookie and actually sharing his with her. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Scott. Wonderful that you shared again. Love that story. Really beautiful. I'm going to move real quick to Carlos. We're at the top of the hour. Carlos, great to see you. Happy you're sharing.
Hi there. Hello. Hi, Karen, right?
Yes, Karen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, what do you call it? It's funny. one of the things I try to study very much was communication. And I'm just so happy that it's really a big part of the forum here, with you and with John. I've had a bunch of different jobs. I'm hyperactive. I've done a ton of different work. I'm an EMT. I was going to study for my paramedics. I did 15 years of service and all the unique things that brought. I was a counselor for 5 years for autistic adults, aggressive, disabled, developmentally disabled. And then I'm an engineer and I'm client facing. So communication is key. Wow. But yeah, and it's something that I gotta always be learning and stay on top of and be very focused. But for what you were saying, and thank you, Scott, for that wonderful story. That experience just, it's going to stay with me. It's going to get added to the list. That's wonderful. I put it in chat and text what I wanted to say. We have a situation in rescue that kind of happens to us. And what it is fire, you have somebody trapped in an elevator, you have somebody on a rooftop, and they tried to jump, but they got tangles, so now it's a rescue. Or, you're just dealing with somebody who got ran over and you're doing triage and extrication. So tensions are high, very anxious, a lot of things going on. And what I did is I put in the chat for me is, really, we go by 3 forms of communication because we have to keep it simple. We have to stay very focused. And my first year, I was a rookie and, I got abused. My second to 15th year, I was a captain and a leader because I just put that much emphasis. And this was all volunteer. I could have been paid by the city, but I chose not to because, I was there for a reason. So number one, when I get on scene, I always know it's what I say. Okay, we have to triage. We have so many people that we have to get to, and this is the scope. And I'm an incident commander. So it's what you say. So then number 2, it's what everybody else heard. And that's the second level. It's what everybody else heard and what they're doing because of what they heard. Then it comes back to me. It's what I actually meant to say, but didn't say it. And if I missed, well, we have to go check under this bush. There was a car accident. There's a motorcycle biker that flipped and we have the guy trapped under the bike. We need to look in the backyards, under cars, under bushes for a second person. And I never said it. It's what I meant to say. It's when we get to the fire, to the house that's on fire, before the fire department, we disobey. I know the fire captain's going to yell at me. We go in, but we don't check this side or this side of the room because we didn't do it. I mean, I'm going to get yelled at it anyway, so I might as well check everywhere I'm supposed to. So it's what I say. It's what we say, not me, what we say. It's what those around us heard. Police officers, fellow rescuers, EMTs, medics. And it's what we really wanted to say, but too much going on, too much anxiety, too many people yelling, get my family out, or, our emotion levels are so high. What I meant to say in my nervousness, in my not ability to focus, didn't say. And that's something I work on and try to work on, even in everyday interviews, everyday communication. So it's just something for me to be able to put my mindset around, let me work on this. But I've heard so many wonderful things here, like from Patricia. Thank you, Scott, and Eddie, some of the wonderful things I've heard that can kind of help me kind of zero in on other areas. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking up, Carlos, and sharing. I mean, that just shows us this whole other, we were thinking, everyday life, you're bringing in these extreme traumatic experiences where, wow, communication is life and death. And
yeah,
so
we want to get people's, their mothers home, children home.
Yeah.
Something happened, get those people out and get them safe and don't lose them because, their family wants them home, the mother home,
Exactly.
the father. So thank you.
And what I love about what you shared is you didn't share, it's not with worry that you worry about. It's how can I perfect my communication skills? You said it in the beginning, I'm always working on my communication skills to perfect, to improve. And that's what we're going for. We're going for improvement, constant improvement. We're not here to worry about what others do or think or navigate because we don't have any control on that. But we can definitely be in check with ourselves and hold ourselves accountable and keep on growing. The more that we learn our internal work and what we're expressing outward in words, in emotion, in visuals, right? Hand signals, whatever, smiles, eyebrows, you put in the comments there, some people, the more we learn ourselves in that way, the more we'll be able to communicate the message that we actually want to. So yes. This was fantastic. Really great to see all of you. Let me just say here, right as we close, our community is so great and fabulous. I see Amber here and Scott, so I'm going to imagine that there is a help after this. So I'm going to close this session. So your screen is going to go blank. But if you would like to receive some how-to help from the community members that are doing this out of the kindness of their heart, then just hop into the link right after this. You just join back into the link and you'll be, re-entered into this room and you can ask questions. I know the community is super great about helping everyone and it really is a fun place to connect with everyone. So thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing you next week.